agenda item 1, which is apologies. Do we have any apologies? Could you please indicate? I see Councillor Glenn Campbell.
Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly is an apology, and Councillor Catherine Kelly, and I believe Padraig Kelly, Councillor Padraig Kelly, and Devane Gallagher will be online.
Thank you very much for that. Do you have any other apologies from any of the other parties at this stage? Okay, I'm not seeing any indications either WebEx or in the chamber. So it's fine. Just move on to, I've signed the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 10th of December 2024. Do we have any declarations of interest at this point, folks? And I see Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I probably don't need to do this, but I declared an interest anyway on 4.1, Oma Independent Advice Services Management Committee, and 5.3, Oma Opportunity Sites Working Group. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Yeah, you're probably all right with that, Councillor Thompson, but likewise, I'm a member of the Vacated Sites Working Group as well. Councillor McElduff.
Same position. I think it's Errol listed there, 4.1 and 5.3. I would be a member of both of those august bodies as well. Thank you.
Okay. Good enough. And I don't see any further indications for declarations of interest at this stage, but if anything comes up during the course of the meeting, you know what to do. Just before I proceed, I just want to provide some reassurance. I've got 2 items of any urgent or relevant business, one of them being one of my own. I do intend to bring up the recent suspension of the public inquiry, and so I just want to reassure members of that. Although it's not formally on the agenda, we will have the opportunity to discuss that under any urgent or relevant business, so be assured we'll have that opportunity. Okay, moving on then, we're going to start with reports for decision. Community Wellbeing Director's report to consider the report on integrated advice partnership funding from the Department for Communities, paper A 4.1.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, funding which has been provided from the Department for Communities to implement an integrated advice partnership fund. The Money and Pensions Service, the survey which they carry out in the last survey in 2023, the need for debt advice, it indicated that on average 12.5% of the population in Northern Ireland is in need of debt advice, and that a further quarter, or 24%, almost a quarter, would benefit from money guidance. Yet you will see there in section 1.3 of the report that that would equate to about 183,000 citizens, 183,000 citizens having the need for debt advice. But only less than 3,500 were actually supported in relation to debt advice in 23-24. So the department, having recognised this, has allocated almost £87,000 to Fermanagh and Omagh District Council, and indeed to all councils, to try and increase the reach of debt advice by early intervention, ensuring that the people who are facing financial difficulties have access to that support and guidance and advice, and by doing it through an integrated advice partnership. The suggestion is that it would all be done through collaborative partnerships with the community and voluntary sector and with those existing bodies. So it could be, raising advice in settings such as the supermarkets or the food banks or the doctor's surgeries or things like this. It is proposed that an integrated partnership fund would be established. And in order to do that, we are proposing a procurement exercise is undertaken to appoint a provider to increase that reach of debt advice in the district. And I think it's positive. I think there is a need, and we recently launched our anti-poverty strategy, And I suppose debt is a major part of that, an increase in allowing or giving access to people to get that appropriate advice for those who are falling into financial difficulties. So therefore, Chair, it's recommended that the Council notes the funding provided by DFC to implement an integrated advice partnership fund. And I should say that runs up until March 26, and also approves a procurement exercise to be undertaken to appoint a provider to increase the reach of that debt advice in the district.
Okay, thank you very much for that, John. Do you have any indications to speak on that? I'm not seeing anything in the chamber, and I'm not seeing anything on WebEx. So if we are content then with the proposals as outlined, I've got a proposal from Councillor Rainey and a seconder from Councillor Campbell. Okay, all agreed? Great. Okay, thank you very much for that. Moving on then to item 5.2, which is to consider the report on the meeting of the Agriculture Liaison Group. Paper, yeah. Oh, yes, apologies. No, skipped an item there. 5. Okay, no worries. Councillor Rennie declaring an interest as a chair of the Agriculture Liaison Group. But yeah, we're going to start with. No, that's no worries. So we're going to start with 5.1, which is the performance improvement plan for year 2.
Thank you, Chair. So members, the purpose of this report then is to seek approval of the Council's draft improvement objectives for the 25-26 year for consultation purposes. So just a couple of key points to note then. So it was agreed whenever we were in the development of our PIP performance improvement plan PIP for year 1, the current period that we're in, that the improvement objectives would align with the core priorities of the Council's corporate plan over a 4-year period, and those 4 improvement objectives are set out in paragraph 2.2. So with that in mind, then it's proposed that the improvement objectives be retained for the 25-26 year, really to build on the progress that's been achieved to date, and then really ensure completion of work plans, and then also gives us an opportunity to track progress really against the long-term outcomes. So the draft improvement objectives propose retaining those 4 overarching objectives, and that's supported by 13 then related improvement actions. And in undertaking this piece of work then, that has given us an opportunity then to look at those improvement actions to ensure that they're, I suppose, up to date and reflective of where we currently are in terms of our council priorities. So table 1 then really sets out the improvement objectives and also includes then the related improvement actions. The detail of the actual report then in terms of the improvement report is attached at Appendix 1. So in terms of the next steps then, first, the next stage in the development process would be to seek feedback via a public consultation. So subject obviously to member approval and council ratification, we're proposing that as an 8-week consultation launching on the 13th of February, and that would run then onto the 9th of April. And then Appendix 2 sets out our intentions in terms of communication and engagement around that process. So then on completion of that public consultation, we will receive feedback from the public that will be collated, and we will obviously then update our performance improvement plan to incorporate the feedback from the consultation process, and then we would obviously bring back then an updated draft of the improvement plan back to members. So in terms of timing, we would envisage then we would be coming back to RNC committee in May with that updated improvement plan for member discussion, and then that would enable us then to proceed on in terms of our statutory deadline in terms of requirement to produce this by the 30th of June. So in terms of the recommendation then, it's recommended the council agrees the draft improvement objectives for 25-26 for public consultation.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Okay, a lot of information there, folks. Do we have any indications to speak? Not seeing anything in the chamber, and I'm not seeing anything online. If there's no queries to be made, then can I maybe get a proposer then for? Okay, Councillor Barton proposing, and Councillor Green seconding. No content? Content. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on then to the meeting of the Agricultural Liaison Group.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report then is to update members on the meeting of the Councillors Agricultural Liaison Group, which took place on the 12th of December, and to seek council approval to progress a series of identified recommendations from that meeting. So at the meeting then, members considered the key priorities and issues affecting Fermanagh Oma District Council and Fermanagh Oma District in terms of the agricultural sector, and the following matters then were discussed and agreed as relevant at the meeting. So there was discussion around arrangements being made for programme of visits during 2025, and those are listed out in the document there. So those include Moy Park, Hatchery, Dunmore, Focus Farm visit, and then eel fishery. There was also discussion, really, I suppose, as a result of the November budget, that the baseline information be sought from the Department of Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs regarding the budget changes. And then once we would receive that information, that we would then review that, that our council's data science intelligence team would review that, and the information then would be presented back to the next meeting of the Agricultural Liaison Group. Members discussed potential speakers that should be invited to present at the next group at a point in 2025 to explore the consequences of that November budget. And members agreed that officers should progress invites to a number of speakers who delivered presentations at a recent family tax event that was hosted in Enniskillen. Members also agreed that correspondence should be issued to the Minister for Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs regarding the issues around the budget allocation in the agricultural sector in 2025. Members also agreed that correspondence should issue to the Minister in relation to the findings of the University of Oxford report, and there's a link there to the report in terms of the detail of that. Members also noted that the Council has requested that the liaison group meet with the Assembly's ERA committee, and the committee is obviously considering that. And then there was also discussion in relation to the recent consultation on bovine tuberculosis and the steps around that. So in terms then, members of the recommendations, they really relate directly to the points that I've just gone through. So I'll just go through those then. So it's recommended the Council approves the following recommendations from the December meeting. So arrangements be made for programme of visits during 2025 to Moy Park, Hatchery, Dunmore, Focus Farm visit, and then eel fishery. The baseline information is requested from DAERA regarding the November budget changes, and following a review of information by the Council's Data Science Intelligence team, it is presented then to the next meeting of the group. Progress invites to speakers who had delivered presentations at the recent family farm tax event hosted in Enniskillen to attend the next or a meeting of the Agricultural Liaison Group in 2025 to explore the consequences of our November budget. To issue correspondence to the Minister for Agriculture around the budget allocation for agricultural sector in 2025, to also issue correspondence to the Minister in relation to the findings of the Oxford report, and then to note the consultation on the bovine tuberculosis consultation that took place.
Okay. Councillor Green.
Thanks, Chair. I was at that last Agricultural Liaison Group meeting. Just to say, it was hosted in the new workhouse in Enniskillen, and I have to praise the accommodation there and how we were treated. It was very good. And I suppose the only other thing that I wanted to say is I hear that the Agricultural Committee in Stormont has agreed to meet us and will soon be trying to organise a day that'll suit us. So fingers crossed, I'm right on that information that I've got. So I'm happy to second this proposal. I think maybe Alan as chair, maybe it's better to propose it. So if that's okay.
So content to propose, Councillor Rainey, thank you, and that's seconded by Councillor Green. Do we have any further comments at this stage? Okay, not seeing anything in the chamber or WebEx. All agreed. Agreed. All right, thank you very much. Moving on then to item 5.3, which is to consider the report on the meeting of the Oma Opportunity Sites Working Group.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report then is to update members on the meeting of the Council's Oma Opportunity Sites Working Group, which was held on the 16th of December, and then to seek council approval for the group's revised terms of reference, which are attached to Appendix 1, and then approval to progress the identified recommendations arising from that meeting. So just in terms of key issues then at the meeting, we obviously discussed our revised terms of reference for the group, and we discussed a number of changes to those. So the additions to the revised terms of reference, Appendix 1, they're set out in red text within the terms of reference. And then any aspects that have been removed then are just indicated by way of the strike through text. Members will note that the membership of the working group has also been updated really in the main to reflect changes in councillor membership over time. There was consensus at the meeting that the term of the working group chair would depart from the 1-year rotation that was set out in the currently agreed terms of reference, really for efficiency and consistency. And the chair then would remain in place for the mandate of this council. And then there was also consensus that Councillor Michael Duff would fulfil the role of the chair of the group. At the meeting then, members also received an update from officers on the school sites that will be vacated as a result of the development of the Stroul campus, and also an update in terms of St Lucia. The update really focused on, I suppose, site constraints context for each of the sites. And then the sites were discussed really in the context of the actions and best ideas that are contained within our Oma Place Shaping Plan 2020-2035. In relation to the vacated school sites associated with Stroul campus, members agreed that an update from the Stroul vacated sites working group should be provided by members at the next meeting of the group. And then in relation to St Lucia in particular, members agreed that it would be helpful for the group to undertake a site visit to St Lucia early in 2025. And then specifically on the relations to the next steps for the group, and in particular in context of the council's place shaping responsibilities and the objectives of the working group, members noted that a master plan had previously been prepared by central government for St Lucia, and agreed that we should progress work to refresh the master plan for St Lucia and engage with the Department for Communities and Department for Infrastructure to seek their financial support for a refreshed master plan for the site. So in terms of the recommendations then, members, it's recommended that the council notes the update on the Oma Opportunity Sites Working Group, approves the revised terms of reference for the group, approves the revised membership of the group, and approves that Councillor Michael Duff will fulfil the role of the chair for the remainder of this council mandate, and also approves the recommendations of the December meeting of the group to make arrangements for a site visit to St Lucia early in 2025, progress work to refresh the master plan in place for St Lucia, write to the Department for Communities and Department for Infrastructure to seek their financial support for a refreshed master plan for St Lucia, and receive an update of the Stroul vacated sites working group at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And go to Councillor Michael Duff.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to Sinead. It was a good meeting. It was good to get it restarted in the way that we did just before Christmas. And some of the points that I thought were most interesting was when our director kept referencing back to the place shaping plan. And, you know, the constraints and the potential, and already thought has gone into the types of use for each site that each site might suit, if you know what I mean, in the context of the 5 vacated school sites. Obviously, St Lucia is a big one. We had an engagement with the Minister for Infrastructure, and he put the ball back in our court, you know, to come up with a vision for St Lucia, because we're trying to prevent, you know, it being just sold to the highest bidder, that type of a thing. That public benefit would be the key thing. So I suppose we're trying to take somebody called it a helicopter view of the town. Other sites have gone off the list, you know, because they're being developed, like the Tyrone County Hospital site, etc. And we're going to obviously be looking at the role of the Department of Education led group, which our chief executive sits on, I believe, and we're going to get an update on that. I suppose one thing I would ask Sinead is, we're looking at other models of how to get the most in terms of regeneration for a town. You know, people look at Ebrington, people look at other sites that have been developed, St Patrick's and Ballymena, other sites. So we're going to be taking a look at that. But I'm wondering how we can best involve the public at some point, because the public, local stakeholders, business sector, others, residents have a strong interest in this, you know, and I'm wondering at some point, will we be going out to consultation on the community views as to how the 5 sites, 5 vacated school sites and St Lucia might best be developed, you know, because we want people to feel that they're part of this process. So we need to think of innovative ways of democratizing this and including people, not least the relevant stakeholders. And an early stakeholder might be the business community in Omagh, because they may have fears about the shape of the town centre once the Strood campus is gone live. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. And you're happy to just propose that, Chair? Yeah. Sorry, that's Chair. No, that's handy enough. That's handy enough. I'll bring in. You looking to speak, Sinead?
Chair, I'm just going to come maybe back on
Yeah.
a couple of the points that Councillor McAuliffe had made about community consultation engagement, which are important. I suppose in terms of other models, Councillor McAuliffe, you've referred to obviously the likes of Ebrington. So I think there's probably an opportunity for us at the working group to look closer at the work they've done. So I think that would be something for us at a future meeting. In terms of involving the public, obviously the place shaping plan went through a detailed process in terms of consultation around it and the work there. So, and that obviously drew out feedback and the best ideas and actions within that. So there's been a consultation process as part of that. I suppose in terms of St. Lucia specifically, if we are to progress on to do a refresh of our master plan, I would see there would be a community engagement consultation aspect to that master plan refresh. And then I suppose the other thing that we're progressing as a council is the work on our local development plan as well. So we ever progress on our local policies plan. So there will be significant consultation as part of that process as well.
Okay, and I'm bringing in Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Agree with a lot of what Councillor McAuliffe had said there. Just with regard to one of the points there is the continuity of the chair. Obviously, we have just the 2 years left in this mandate, and whoever's here post ahead of this mandate, they can take it wherever they're going then after that. But I think it's just right for continuity purposes that that we have the Councillor McAuliffe as the chair for the next 2 years, and then we can look at it after that if whoever's here at that stage. But just with regard to the recommendations, I'm happy to second the recommendations. I think Councillor McAuliffe proposed them there. I'm happy to second the recommendations as listed. Just one for the director there. We talked about on the day about obviously Ebrington and St. Patrick's Barracks in Ballymena. Would it be, I think it would be of interest if we had a visit maybe to Ebrington Square, and maybe that can be looked at, Sinead. And I know you're going to look at it at a meeting maybe, but I think maybe a hands-on visit would be good, just to see what they have actually got there, because St. Lucia is going to be a multi-purpose site, no matter what way we look at it. So I think I'm happy to propose that actually happens, that we have a visit to Ebrington Square. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Thompson. And you're good. Okay, Councillor Green.
Yeah, thanks. I'm happy to second this if it has been proposed, or if it hasn't been proposed, I'm happy to propose it.
Yeah, I'll take that as a proposal from Councillor Thompson and second it from yourself, Councillor Green. And also, are you happy to second that proposal that a visit to Ebrington Square be organised? Yep, happy enough. Okay. Okay, that's no worries. So that's proposed and seconded. So we all agreed? We're all agreed. You know, at the day, it's a bit of a trip down memory lane, actually. I was looking at the membership list before, and Chris Smith is still listed amongst those members. So lots of happy memories. Okay, moving on then to item 5.4, which is to consider the draft response to the Department for Infrastructure Active Travel Delivery Plan consultation.
Thank you, Chair. So purpose of this report then is to provide members with an overview of the consultation by DFI on its active travel delivery plan. and then to seek approval for the submission of the draft response to the consultation and the supporting maps. So the consultation period is open until the 28th of February. In terms of some key issues, just important, I suppose, to look at and to provide some context. I suppose initially, just a bit of context on the actual active travel delivery plan as it's currently presented, and then just some of the issues that we have pulled out in particular within the draft response. So DFI defines active travel as travelling by physically active means, such as walking, wheeling or cycling. So I'm just noting that as being, I suppose, the context for what they refer to as active travel. So the public consultation really aims to gather input and proposals to enhance walking, wheeling and cycling infrastructure across Northern Ireland. And it provides some context then in relation to our Climate Change Act and everything that's associated with that in terms of the targets associated in terms of transport. The consultation itself states that a comprehensive plan is essential to maximise the benefits of their increased investment and the long-term vision to create what they refer to as a seamless integrated network that enables more people, regardless of age or ability, to choose active travel. And it explains how they're going to prioritise and deliver what they refer to as high-quality active infrastructure over the next 10 years. So the plan proposes to phase delivery into what they refer to as priority routes over not a 10-year period, and then future routes, which would be delivered then in a 10+ year timeframe. The plan explains that an assessment framework has been developed to assess and score potential active travel routes, and it places particular emphasis on 3 connection types for each area, so links to schools, public transport and town centres. So the plan identifies urban areas with larger populations as having the greatest potential for achieving a significant modal shift to active travel. It adopts the NISRA definition of urban areas as those with populations exceeding 5,000. So that's a concern for us as Omagh District Council, because on this basis, the interventions that are being proposed then are limited to Enniskillen and Omagh, and only 5 routes then have been identified in the priority routes phase of what they've presented to us at this point. So in terms of the draft response then to the consultation, it's attached to Appendix 1 with supporting maps at Appendix 4 and 5. And I'm just going to pull out just some of the summary key issues then from the consultation draft response. So what we're saying really is that we support the development of active travel infrastructure, and that we agree that this has potential to deliver wide-ranging social, environmental and economic benefits. We have noted concern in relation to the overall scope of the plan, which restricts delivery of infrastructure to urban areas with a population of over 5,000. Fermanagh District Council is the largest of all council areas with a total of 80 settlements. And the application of the NISRA urban-rural classification, including the limited number of priority routes, will result in what we see as being substantially less investment in FODC and less social, environmental and economic benefits as a result. A number of the routes identified, including the Enniskillen bypass, have already been committed to or developed. And so it's really unclear then, I suppose, what interventions are proposed in the plan as being genuinely new and bringing, I suppose, additional value to the district. A number of additional priority and future routes have been identified as part of our response to ensure that it's a comprehensive plan. But I suppose it's just important to note that these additional routes are not exhaustive. They're not an exhaustive list. They may need further analysis and modelling to determine the exact details, and the Council then would invite DFI to undertake a much more detailed analysis and modelling process to identify further routes. Appendix 4 and 5 really sets out what we see as being the Council's priorities for the priority delivery phase within Enniskillen and Omagh, and then just noting that obviously isn't, as we see, a comprehensive or exhaustive list. Additional future routes have not been mapped, as further analysis and modelling is required by DFI to ensure a comprehensive approach. So we haven't actually mapped as officers any future routes. Whilst the focus is on main arterial routes extending from the town centre, in our view, there's been no meaningful consideration given to the potential for radial connectivity through existing developments, which would enable shorter journeys by active travel to schools and centre of employments that the plan could achieve. The Enniskillen and Omagh place shaping plans and the relevant actions proposed in respect of active travel really need to be carefully considered as part of the active travel plan. And whilst this is a focus, the plan focuses on infrastructure. We also feel that there really needs to be a coordinated approach with education and behavioural change, which is obviously really essential in fostering that long-term shift to active travel. We've raised concerns in the draft response that a rules need impact assessment hasn't been undertaken for the plan at this stage, and it's considered that the current approach then in that context is prejudicial to rural areas. The Council would welcome further engagement and collaboration with DFI in relation to further analysis and modelling of a comprehensive set of routes within the district. And we would also flag in the draft response that there will be a requirement for DFI to formally adopt all routes that are developed as part of the active travel schemes. So in terms of the recommendation then, members, it's recommended that the Council endorses the draft response to the Department for Infrastructure Active Delivery Plan consultation, which is attached then at Appendix 1.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thompson, is that a fresh indication? You're on mute. Okay.
I've just lowered my hand there, Chair. Thank you.
That's no worries. Councillor Campbell.
Jeremy, good, Carly. No, I'd be happy to propose our recommendation here and endorse the draft response. But I suppose I want to check in informing the response. Do we engage with like sort of cycling groups, wheelchair users? I mean, I'm conscious that we're talking about active travel and trying to increase the routes. But there's been a lot of people involved in active travel long before, these sort of strategies came about, and they're maybe battling with the same obstacles to active travel on those routes. Is that like a separate issue? Like for example, I mean, people would talk about cycling, how signage and islands in the road and all can affect them, and, maybe they would have done that differently at that junction. Does there be any engagement with, cyclists or, I'm even thinking wheelchair users who travel, actively as well as walking groups and things like that? Is there any of that goes on, or is the focus here only on new routes that are going to really, if you like, yield a big increase in active travel, not on those that have been doing it conscientiously for years that maybe have facing the same obstacles to it, and safety concerns as well when you talk about, all those issues that make active travel more difficult. An obvious one, sorry, in the rural area, I know this isn't, the rural area is less than 5,000, but an obvious one obviously is the fact that you can't stand in on the roadside verge now anymore. A lot of them have fallen away, and it's a risk to road users, and it's a particular risk to pedestrians, I would say, so there is a lot of barriers there to travel, to active travel. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose in terms of our consideration of this as officers within the council, we would have considered it, it was in the context of planning and within the context of community and wellbeing. Officers, we did have, I suppose we've had initial and like pre-consultation engagement, so we would have actually engaged prior to this consultation arising with the consultants that would have been involved in collating this. And then I suppose in terms of the proposal or the recommendations that we're making, I suppose part of our response then is really to say that we would like to engage further with DFI. So some of the points you're making, I think it would be important then for us to flag it up whenever we're directly engaging with them on the detail of this. I suppose the other thing, Councillor Campbell, is this is also, I suppose, an open consultation as well. So there may be other groups within the district who will also have taken the opportunity to comment on the consultation as well.
Yeah, no, I understand. I know some of the points I'm making are I suppose, a cycling group isn't necessarily focused on active traveling to work, for example. They're doing it because they love cycling, but there's probably people in there that would have valuable input to make, maybe in terms of the obstacles and the risks. I've heard people saying that they would never go back on a bicycle again. People that maybe have had close shaves or whatever, so there's a lot of work to be done really to support those people that don't need convincing of active travel, and make the roads safer for them. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Do we have any other indications to speak on this? And I see Councillor McElduff.
You, Chair. Chair, I hope it's not merely an academic exercise, but would it be a good idea, I think it would, that the Oma to Carrickmore Greenway proposal that was kind of parked up maybe about 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, could be revisited. I remember it had got through various stages. There was funding set aside for a feasibility study, and it was along the lines of it was in close proximity to the route of the Great Northern Railway. I'm not sure if it would have been part of a wider OMA to Dungannon kind of plan, but it was known as the OMA to Carrickmore Greenway, and it would have gone into Barra and 6 Mile Cross, that area in line with the old GNR route. Councillor Rennie would have heard his parents talking about the railway lines. But where did we leave that? You know, I would like to think that that has the potential to be revived because there's a body of work sitting there. And maybe at a future meeting of this committee, we could have an explanatory note as to where it was left, say 4 or 5 years ago. And it'd be fantastic if that whole area could benefit from walking, running, cycling. I remember the time I would be at the Assembly, there was an awful lot of talk about the Comber Greenway and you know how wonderful it was, you know, and you would love to see a facility like that at the heart of that Oma Mid-Tyrone area. Thank you, Chair.
It's a point well made, Councillor McAuliffe, because I can remember at one point during the last mandate where there was actually a formal exercise carried out, which was consulting on a number of proposals, and I think Gorton Garn to Gorchin might have been one of them as well. So there's a number of different ideas being pursued at that point, but we'll find out where that lay. Councillor Withers.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and I would share those views and how a positive impact revisiting that Greenway would be. I mean, we've seen in other parts of the country. I'm thinking of like the Great Western Greenway there in Mayo, or the Waterford Greenway in the southeast of the country, and what an impact that would have for local people in terms of their health and physical well-being, as well as being a key driver for attracting tourism and visitors to the area. We've no doubt that, as Councillor Campbell said, in terms of roads and safety issues for cyclists and walkers and runners. So anywhere we're offering that traffic-free environment would certainly be a benefit. So hopefully we can revisit that. So just like to second that, Chair. Thank you.
Be happy to second the wider proposal, if that's all right.
Yep, perfect, Chair. Thank you.
Well, that's no price. Not seeing any further indications to speak at this stage. I suppose just one observation I would like to make off the back of having gone through the consultation response is the fact that we need to make sure that we keep this as much as possible for melanoma centered in terms of making sure that we get, as far as possible, a bespoke solution to the challenges that we're facing in this district, because I was quite concerned at the fact, reading it, that there didn't seem to be any hint whatsoever that the OMA and the Enniskillen place shaping plans had even been taken into account. And DFI were a partner to those exercises, and fundamental to those exercises was the question of active travel. So I welcome the fact that actually, as part of our response, we're building on essentially what they've said and gone back with our own solutions, not least suggestions such as the possibility of this kind of infrastructure happening in places like the Hospital Road, where you've got a growing, vibrant community, where actually greater active travel infrastructure would be something that would be enormously beneficial to the people that live in that area. And there's plenty of examples of where that would be enormously beneficial right across from melanoma. So I think we just need to kind of keep that to the fore. But if there's no further indications to speak, that's been proposed by Councillor Campbell, seconded by Councillor Withers.
Sorry, Chair.
I see Councillor Thompson coming in.
Yeah, it's I just noticed again, and it keeps popping up here at us, and it's the response, Appendix 1, and it's referring to the junction of Drumragh Avenue and Gorton Road. That is incorrect. It's Drumragh Avenue and Mountjoy Road. And we've had this now, it popped up in Environmental Services as well, I believe last night. And it's incorrect. The Gorton Road doesn't start until after Killybrack Road turn off. That's where Gorton Road starts. And the Spar shop there is probably the first premises on Gorton Road. So that's incorrect. And planners and departments keep using that, and it's incorrect. So that, I think that needs to be taken on board. And it's on this document as well. Maybe if that could be corrected.
If members are content, I would make whatever the correction update is this needed before it would progress on. I was happy with that.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you for that, Councillor Thompson. Okay, yeah, just to keep this procedurally right. So, Councillor McElduff.
Checking that you treated the Greenway proposal as a proposal. I'm sure you did.
Yeah,
you.
so, yeah, Greenway proposal proposed by Councillor McElduff and seconded by Councillor Withers. Well agreed. Yeah. And the response to this consultation, which was proposed by Councillor Campbell and seconded by Councillor Withers, we agreed. We're agreed. Okay, thank you, folks. Moving on then to item 6.1, which is to note the report on various tourism initiatives.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report then is to provide an update to members on various tourism development initiatives across the district, which ultimately supports the outcomes and actions in relation to our visitor experience development plan. So in relation to the visitor experience development plan delivery partnership then, the 7th meeting of that partnership took place 17th of December, and the minutes of the September meeting then are set out at Appendix 1. So at the VD partnership meeting held in December, members received a presentation on access and inclusion tourism from Tourism NI, and a presentation on the Ulster Canal restoration project from Waterways Ireland, which was a very interesting presentation from both. An update also was provided in relation to our sub-regional economic plan, and the intended next steps in relation to that was also provided. And then the wider VD report, which is attached for members at Appendix 2, was also discussed in detail at the meeting, and updates were then also provided from the various member organisations who were in attendance. Just to provide then, I suppose, an update in terms of our tourism conference then. So our tourism conference preparations are at an advanced stage now for the conference, which is due to take place on the 27th of February at the Killyhaven Lakeside Hotel and Lodges. And in terms of speakers then for the conference to date, the speakers then listed at paragraph 2.2 have been confirmed. And since the report was drafted, there's just a slight update to that in relation to Mr. John McGrillen, Chief Executive Officer of Tourism NI, who has advised that unfortunately his diary has other commitments now that he needs to honour. So in his place then, David Roberts would be coming along to speak, and he's the Director of Strategic Development within Tourism NI. And also then just to note that an online registration for the conference will open then next week. And this will be promoted then through the Council and Fermanagh Lakeland Tourism social media platforms to ensure that we've wide reach on it. In the paper then, we've also provided some updates around a tourism industry survey at November 2024. That's set out some interesting details around tourism Northern Ireland. They'd commissioned a survey in October with Northern Ireland's tourism industry to monitor the 2024 year to date. So that's January to September business performance, outlook for the remainder of the year and into 2025, as well as causes of concern and reasons to be optimistic. So we've set out some detail on the key research findings with that, and then the full report is available at Appendix 3. Also then in the report, we've provided some information in relation to Tourism Ireland and the situation and outlook analysis report. So correspondence had been received from Tourism Ireland in relation to their latest SOAR report from December 2024, and some of the key findings then from the report are outlined at paragraph 2.4.1 with the full report then attached at Appendix 4. So in terms of the recommendations then, members, it's recommended the Council notes the update in relation to the VDP delivery partnership, the update in relation to the tourism conference, notes the update in relation to Tourism NI's 2024 business survey, and notes the update relating to Tourism Ireland and their situation and outlook analysis report.
Okay, thank you very much. Not seeing any indications in the Councillor McElduff.
I think that's a very exciting conference coming up. And I was just wondering, how many delegates or attendants would we anticipate for an event of that character? And again, it doesn't have to take this format, but it was just as a question in my head, is would there be an opportunity for local providers to have stalls or circulate literature, engage with delegates present, you know?
Sorry, Chair. I was just going to come in on that. So, Councillor McElduff, we're working through, I suppose, a programme for the day at this point. So there will be, it was ahead of the conference actually formally opening. The programme that we're drafting at the minute, there would be like almost like a, if you want to call it, the breakfast part to it, where we would hope to have an opportunity, particularly as for Manor Council, to put up some, I suppose, display in terms of key tourism assets within the district. The conference is open right across the district in terms of anyone who wants to come along to attend. There's no fee for attendance, so hopefully we will see good traction on that, and I think pushing it out on social media. Hopefully, then that will ensure that we have a wide audience.
And do we have any further indications then, just to speak on that? Okay, I'm not seeing anything in the chamber or online. So, Councillor McElduff, are you happy to propose that? Yeah. And seconded by Councillor Rainey. All agreed? Okay. Thank you very much. Then moving on to note the report of Director of Regeneration.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report then is to provide members with an update on a number of items. So details regarding acceptance of letter of offer, acceptance of an addendum to a letter of offer, acceptance of letters of comfort, and then also an update in relation to our strategic capital grants programme. So in terms of our letter of offer then, the letters of offer relate to Peace Plus. A letter of offer has been accepted from SEUPB to the value of £5,671,195. Labour Market Partnership funding then, an addendum has been accepted from the Department for Communities of 20,000 in relation to approved childcare funding bid. And then in paragraph 2.1.3, there has been an award letter has been accepted from the department in relation to the delivery of the Rural Business Development Grant Scheme. And then also in terms of Department for Communities Environmental Improvement Scheme, OMA Livable Lanes, a letter of offer has been accepted from DFC up to the value of £57,860. And then at paragraph 2.1.5 in relation to Public Health Agency and the tobacco enforcement and home safety visits, letters of comfort have been accepted from PHA to confirm funding beyond the 31st of March 2025 for the 25-26 financial year for the following programmes, and they relate to home safety visits and the tobacco enforcement. And the PHA have advised that a letter of offer confirming budgets will be issued at a later date. And then in the report, we've also just taken an opportunity to provide an update on our strategic capital grants programme, which we would have discussed and agreed, I think it was at our November committee. So members will recall then that the business case for those grants were approved at committee, and provision for this grants programme will be included in estimates. Given the scale of the grants and the likely interest in the scheme, it's proposed that a series of information and engagement events are planned prior to the formal opening of the grant scheme. Work's underway with officers on developing these events and the associated information, and it's anticipated that these should commence as soon as practicable after the completion of the rate setting process. So members will be kept informed of the proposed arrangement for these events, and we would hope then that we would anticipate that we would hopefully bring a paper back to the February committee in relation to that. So in terms of the recommendation then, it's recommended the Council notes acceptance of letters of offer, addendum and comfort, and notes the update on the strategic capital grants programme.
Okay, thank you very much, Sinead. And do we have any indications to speak on that? Not seeing anything on WebEx, not seeing anything in the chamber. If there's no comments, then can I please get a proposer and a seconder? See Councillor McCardle and Councillor Barton seconding. Oh, yeah. Okay, grand. Okay, all agreed? Agreed, thank you. Okay, then we're just moving on to correspondence, first which 7.1.
Thank you, Chair. So the first piece of correspondence then is in relation to COVID Day of Reflection. So the correspondence has just noted that from the Department for Culture, Media and Sport in London, that they are letting us know that the COVID-19 Day of Reflection 2025 will take place on Sunday, the 9th of March. It'll be an opportunity for communities across the UK to come together and a day of reflection for the COVID-19 pandemic. And they've just noted there in the correspondence that by continuing to hold a day of reflection in line with previous years, we hope to offer communities across the country the opportunity to remember lives lost since the pandemic began, and reflect on the sacrifice of many, and provide space for people to reflect on their experiences of the pandemic in a way that suits them best. So the scientists should be wish then to take part, events can be held on a day that suits you best, which includes the week leading up to the day of reflection. And they've provided a website link there in the correspondence then to provide more information around that.
Okay. Councillor Green.
Thanks, Chair, and yeah, I'd have no problem with reflecting on all the people who died and indeed died unnecessarily by horrible government policies in Westminster. I also would reflect, I suppose, in a day of reflection on all of the hundreds of millions that was given by the British government to their friends and buddies, which has never been given back. So I suppose there's a lot of reflection could be done around COVID. But yeah, to reflect on the people that died unnecessarily by some of the policies by the British government would be a very useful thing, all right. And I think they should reflect on some of their actions.
I'm not sure if a particular colour code has been associated with this event, but if not, perhaps an action from this committee that could be proposed is that we would look at what lighting up our buildings to mark this event might look like. That was something that members might be interested in. Okay. You happy to propose that, Councillor Rainey? Well, yeah. Yeah, okay. Do you have a seconder for that? Councillor McArdle and Councillor Rainey, are you happy to second the noting of this as well? Yeah, okay. I'm not seeing any further indications either online or in the chamber. So we're all happy with that? Okay, thank you. Moving on then to item 7.2.
Chair. So the next item of correspondence then is correspondence from the Department for the Economy. And this correspondence is drawn to members' attention or just obviously for noting and to make members aware at this point that we have received consultation from DFE in relation to 5 applications for mineral prospecting licence, which they've noted that covers lands within our council area. And within the correspondence, they have set out the detail of those 5 applications. And to update members that we're working on a substantive response to the consultation on the 5 applications at this time. And it would be our intention then to bring that substantive response to the consultation on the licence applications then to members for consideration at the March R&C committee, which then that ensures that we would have a response submitted to the consultation within the response timeframe, which the response timeframe then is set out at the second page of the correspondence. So consultation period opened on the 13th of January, and then any representations should be submitted on or before the 4th of April.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Kelly.
Happy to propose a noting, although not entirely happy with the news from it, but I look forward to seeing the council response and indeed our own party response, and I encourage everybody within the council to respond.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I would hope that the council through ourselves would make, and individually and as parties would make a very strong presentation against these granting of these licenses. I was looking back in around 2017, 18, 19 when these were being released. I seen reports in the Fermanagh Herald and Reporter and all, and at the time I said that these toxic industries were not wanted by their communities. Nobody in my area, which is around Brooke-Union, where some of these licenses has been issued, nobody has came to me at that time or since saying that they would be in favour of them. In fact, they would be totally against any of this toxic mining and the taking of our resources. So I would be hoping that that the council would make it very clear that we are totally against these licenses, and hopefully that any licenses won't be granted, and any that has been granted will be rescinded.
Okay, so are you happy to second that then, James?
Yeah, with what I have said added into it.
Okay. Councillor Warrington?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, obviously this was just for information, and as per usual, there's been individuals who has exceeded that. Obviously, we keep hearing this terminology. We heard it quite a bit on Tuesday night at our full council meeting, and we're hearing it tonight again about toxic. Everybody is going to be against toxic mining, but it has to be proved. And as of yet, there's been no proof that any of this mining is toxic. And if some individuals have proof that it is toxic, well, let's present it. Because all we hear is toxic mining. Obviously, fracking was discussed in the Assembly this year, and the ruling was made that there would be a ban on fracking, and that was welcomed. But you know, we can't ban everything. Do we just sit back on our heels and do nothing in this country about moving forward? And certainly, as it is, you know, there's departments there who to look at this, and certainly, you know, yes, we'll make consultations to it, but the bottom line is it will come from the Assembly and from the department when everything is decided. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Warrington. And I'm going to call Councillor Withers.
Yep, thank you, Chair. And Councillor Warren is correct in terms of what direction will come from the department, but we as a council and as representatives of our constituents have a duty on us to represent their views and represent their interests. And I think that's clear to oppose these mineral licenses. I don't think the current system's fit for purpose, and I think we've said that before. It says these companies are in to take away our natural resources to make profits off the back of that, and not for the benefit of the local people. So I would actually propose, I'd like to see if we could get an update from the Department for Economy on what reviews they've carried out in terms of the current mineral prospecting license framework and how they're granted. It was my understanding that was due to be reviewed. So if we can update on that and just share other councillors' views that we should be opposing it. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Green.
Thanks, Chair. I would like to second that as well, and I suppose just in reply to kind of correct something that I said that none of my constituents was for this toxic mining. Can I take that back now and say that I suppose Victor would be one of my constituents, and so there's one person that has seems to be for the toxic mining in my constituency.
I'm going to
Right to reply, please, Chair.
yeah, I'm going to let Councillor Warrington in as he was specifically mentioned.
Look at, obviously, Councillor Green and myself is in the same constituency or the same DEA. And Councillor Green has said that there has been numerous of his constituents went to him to say that they don't want this. I'll be honest with you, it's something that has been very, very little mentioned to me in my area. And as I said before, you know, we like to make, sorry, there's individuals within this council who likes to make great mileage out of this. As I've said before, let the powers that be, the same with the Dalradian thing, let the inquiry that's going on at the minute and the department make the decision, and the same with these prospective licenses. All they are is prospective licensing. There's no mining or there's no nothing going on. It's only for license disrespect. And as somebody alluded to there, you know, taking up resources from the ground. Well, is them resources any good that's buried in the ground? You know, so we just leave them there. They might be beneficial and worth lots of money, but so we just leave them there and ignore them. I'll leave it at that, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I've got a proposer and a seconder to note the correspondence from Councillor Kelly and Councillor Green. We contend? Yeah, and I've got a proposal from Councillor Withers, seconded by Councillor Green, that we would engage with DFE regarding the review that was meant to be going on into this. Okay, are we agreed? Okay. Thank you very much, folks. And got one more piece of correspondence.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So the final piece of correspondence then is correspondence from BT, and it ultimately relates to the change from ultimately the BT landline to digital. If members were content, and we know that the BT officer is content to present to members, and if members were content and wish to meet with officers from BT, then we could seek to do that if members wanted to do that. Yeah.
Okay, so I see a proposal from Councillor Barton to meet with BT and to note Councillor Barton. Yeah, and seconded by Councillor Rainey. I'm seeing an indication online from Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, Chair, I was just going to come in there, propose it or second it. I think that would be a very useful engagement with BT. Thank you.
Okay, no worries at all. I don't see any further indications online or in the chamber. Are we agreed with that? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on then to item 8, any urgent and relevant business. We've got 2. I might just start with mine because it might take a little bit longer. Yeah. Okay. Members, you'll be aware of the news that's emerged in the last couple of days with respect to the decision of the PAC to suspend the current public inquiry into the various applications with respect to Dalradian. I was present at the Stuart Arts Centre yesterday whenever the PAC confirmed their decision, and it's fair to say that the reaction amongst the people who attended that inquiry on multiple days in fairly high numbers was not only disappointment but sheer disbelief at the utterly cack-handed way in which the department has handled this process to such an extent that it descended into a farce that has meant that it now has to be suspended on account of cross-border consultation on transboundary issues, a matter that the department was aware of because our own council, as well as others, informed them in advance that this was going to be an issue. So the fact that that has now resulted in this being indefinitely prolonged with potentially an update in late March is something that there's a deep sense of disappointment about. And at this stage, I would be making firstly a proposal that we engage with the Department for Infrastructure to urge them to make sure that they comply with their statutory obligations as soon as possible to try and get this back on the road. And in addition to that, to make sure that the website that they have established in relation to the public inquiry, that is up to date, and the various information gaps identified at the public inquiry, that be filled in. Secondly, I think that there has been a real destabilization in residents' confidence in the capacity of this public inquiry to deliver an inclusive and reflective and correct outcome and judgment. And I think that it's appropriate that we make sure that we make our voices heard, that this do be as inclusive as possible and reflect on some of the mistakes that have been made in the last number of days. And I think the first thing that we need to do is to write to the PAC and request that whenever this inquiry is reconvened, that in the first instance, virtual attendance is enabled. Because one of the things that struck me whenever I was speaking to third-party representatives who were present at the inquiry was that quite a significant number of them were unpaid, voluntary, and many of them had taken out annual leave in order to be able to participate in the preparation, but also in the inquiry itself. And at the point of the inquiry being reconvened, they're going to be operating at a significant disadvantage on account of the fact that that annual leave has already been used. So there is a need to be able to make sure that there is virtual attendance. And if that is possible, I think that we should be requesting that the PAC enable that to try and maximize the inclusion and participation possible. In addition, and finally, as a third proposal, we need to write to the PAC to ask them to enable the live streaming of meetings, because on account of the fact that many of the third-party objectors involved are there in a voluntary capacity, they cannot attend every single day, which means that there is no formal record for them to be able to go back over what has been discussed on each day that they have missed. And so if it is possible to be able to enable that transparency, to be able to enable that full participation in the future whenever this public inquiry is hopefully reconvened, then I think that it's important that we stand up and say that it's important that our residents have that right to full participation and transparency. Now, I'm hopeful that those three proposals that I've laid out are non-controversial and relate purely to transparency, irrespective of what stance you take on this. But I will see what the mood and view is of the chamber as I go along, and depending on that, I will decide whether I remain in the chair for this. But let's just start with Councillor Withers.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Like yourself, I attended the public inquiry earlier in the week. And can I say that I was very pleased that us as a council had strong representation there, and certainly it's clear to be seen the benefit of that in terms of several interventions that was made by our representatives. So that was good to see. And at the end of the day, we are using ratepayer money to represent the views of this council and the views of many constituents. So first of all, it's great to have that. I too share the concerns in terms of the public inquiry now having stopped and not being able to proceed due to events that transpired during the week in terms of procedural issues. And I hope that that can be revisited and dealt with as soon as possible so it can be proceed. I would completely understand the frustrations of many of those who attended and those who are opposed to this and have had given up their time as well to attend. In terms of the various proposals you've made, Chair, certainly the first one, as I've said, supportive of that. The other two I can agree with, and to a certain extent in terms of having that access, but I'm not sure whether it's entirely possible in terms of there was some checks and balances in terms of they had said about people being able to be more comfortable to speak during the meeting and make representations during the inquiry. So there was that concern from that the PEC had said was a reason for maybe not proceeding with that kind of access in terms of virtual and recordings. So I'm not sure we could be that strong in terms of pushing for it, but certainly we could ask the question, I think, and for them to outline the reasons why it's not possible to do that. At least we could have that there on the record. So I would support us asking the question anyway, and at least getting clear clarification on why it's not possible or what the balance is there in terms of encouraging people to make representation and attend, but also then having that balance with people who may be concerned about being recorded and not being able to then make their views heard. So I suppose there's a flip on the other side as well, which we need to be aware of, Chair. So if you could maybe adjust or amend your second and third proposals there, then certainly I think it could be agreeable to that. Thank you, Chair.
No, I'm more than happy to make sure that we kind of get a language that, to the best extent possible, unites the opinion within this chamber. And certainly it's about asking that question, particularly in light of the fact that there will be many people who will be concerned about the capacity of the public inquiry going forward to be able to be inclusive. But I see Councillor Warrington is on the line.
Yeah, Chair, obviously, a couple of points. And first one, and this is no reflection on yourself, but is it proper that a chair of a committee can take such a stance, and maybe some of the directors can clarify that? My understanding of a chair of a committee was there to basically control the meeting and really be fairly neutral in their approach to that meeting. And any sort of personal opinions they had that would leave them, you know, and obviously address them in another way. As I say, no reflection. Also, yes, I think it's been an absolute horrocks the way that the inquiry has had to be postponed, and no real, you know, my understanding is that on the recordings and stuff of the meeting to the public and having it online or whatever. I think from what I can gather, it was made quite categorically that the commissioner wasn't going to allow it. But again, I can't answer that. But I think I certainly agree with your point that it is the fact that the thing has been postponed now for at least 2 months. You know, I said long ago that the sooner this was came to a conclusion and a decision was made, it certainly would hopefully the people could move on, and probably there would be a lot less discussions. I was going to use another word, but I'll not. There'll be a lot less discussions on this within these walls. Thank you.
Okay, just to address the point that you made, Councillor Warrington, I accept the point that you raised. I did attempt to raise this at Environmental Services Committee last night, but the chair did not permit me to raise it at that point. So I was left in a slightly difficult position. But as I said during my opening remarks, if I got the sense that my proposals were going to cause disagreement potentially and require a vote, then I would remove myself at that point. And I think, just for safekeeping, I probably will actually step out of the chair at this point and ask members of the chamber to propose an alternative chair just for the remainder of this particular item. Councillor McElduff?
Yeah, just my own opinion is, and I'm not a council official or I don't have standing orders in my pocket, but I think it's entirely appropriate and legitimate that you should make a proposal from the chair, if you so wish, of the nature that you did. And I would be supportive of the points you made about transparency and enabling people to take part in the resumed inquiry. I think it's spurious to suggest for 1 second that it is inappropriate or wrong of you to have done what you did. I think you did it entirely appropriately and entirely legitimately. And I know that's the feeling of people to my right and to my left within the chamber. Thank you.
I appreciate the remarks that you've made, Councillor McElduff, but for me, it's important that we respect the integrity of this. And if there's anybody who is raising concerns about the suitability of me staying in this chair, then I want to remove that completely from the equation. So I'm going to say, can I please take a proposer for an alternative chair just for the remainder of this item? Proposal for Councillor McElduff to sit in the chair. Okay, can we get a seconder for that? Councillor Green. Okay. Well, Councillor McElduff will conduct the remainder of this item.
Okay, thank you, members. I'll just check online here for expressions of interest if anybody wants to speak. And I'm checking the chamber as well. But before we proceed, I'll ask Sinead, our director, to recap on where we're at in relation to various proposals that have been made. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So we've had proposal from Councillor Donnelly. As I have interpreted, there are a number of aspects to the proposal in terms of writing to the department and then writing to the PAC. In terms of the proposal then, Councillor Withers has indicated that he's content to be supportive of the first part of the proposal in terms of writing to DFI, but would wish to see some alteration to the wording of the remaining part of the proposals in terms of asking questions of the PAC. And then we've had comments then in relation to Councillor Donnelly and also Councillor Warrington. So as we have it at the minute, we have the proposal from Councillor Donnelly. First part of that in terms of the DFI has been agreed in terms of being proposed by Councillor Withers, or supportive of it rather, but the remainder then is suggestion of the wording change.
Okay, can I just ask Councillor Withers what aspects you're uncomfortable with, or you want reworded or revisited? So I'll go now to Councillor Withers.
Yeah, I just think it was coming from an angle of saying we wanted to see access and visual recording. And I suppose from my end, I'm aware of having attended the inquiry that there was some feedback from the PAC that may actually put some people off from contributing. So just for us to ask the question in terms of what's being considered in terms of having virtual access, and if that can be considered by them again, and for them to clearly state the reasons for either not proceeding with virtual access, or if they indeed can then open up to virtual access. So from our end, I can see how it can allow more people to attend, but also equally it might put some people off from making representation if they're being recorded. So I can see both sides, but just for that question to be put to the PAC. So if Councillor Donnelly is agreeable to that, and then just for them to look at and explore if they can have virtual access, rather than really us pursuing that it should take place, just for them to explore and review that decision. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And again, I think we're all supportive of the opening up of things and transparency. But as you say, Councillor Withers, if there is some aspect of that we haven't thought of, if there's unintended consequences or whatever, okay, I think I'll interpret from Councillor Donnelly that is agreed. The spirit of what you've said will be incorporated. And word, the spirit and word will be incorporated in the way the proposal is shaped. You happy enough, Sinead? Okay. If there is a seconder for that, then we can progress with that. Again, okay, I'll go for Councillor McColgan. Thank you. Yep, I'll come to Councillor Warrington in a wee second. I think Councillor Rennie has indicated his abstention in this matter. Okay, thank you, Councillor Rennie. Yeah. Okay. And I'll go now to Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, certainly would be happy enough to support contacting the PSC on the issue, or the department, sorry, on the postponement or the suspension of the inquiry, but not the other two. You know, at the end of the day, the PSC has made a decision basically, and it would be something that I would probably agree with. And you were certainly on this council whenever we had lots and lots and lots of disruption. And there is no doubt that is part and parcel of the reason why the PSC has taken the angle that they're taking. So I say happy enough to support going back to the department, but on the other two issues, no.
Okay, I think we'll be taking this vote holistically as a three-element motion, a three-element proposal, sorry, or whatever. It won't be taken in individual subparts, isn't that right? It'll be taken as a vote. So I can understand the point you're making, Councillor Warrington. Sinead, can you help us? I'll go to Councillor Barton first before I ask Sinead.
Given the difficulty some of us have with supporting all three parts, why can you not take it in three individual parts?
Okay. Okay. Take guidance from yourself, Sinead, on the. It's a proposal. We have a proposal from Councillor Donnelly, which is seconded. When you have a proposal that it has a seconder, one puts it to a vote. And as my understanding is, it's more than one element to that proposal.
But did he not make three proposals, Chair?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll ask Councillor Donnelly to interpret whether it was one proposal with three elements or whether it was three separate proposals. Thank you.
I mean, Chair, it was one proposal with three separate elements, but I mean, it's up to yourself as Chair how you wish to divvy this out to, if it helps to make matters easier. But,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So you could do it with that, because
Okay.
it's two separate.
Okay, I'll go to Councillor Green now.
I would propose we take a vote on the proposal that was made, and there was a proposal made that was seconded, in my opinion. We vote on that. If it's voted down, then we can relook at what way we've done it. But it was one proposal, you know, and it was seconded. So
Okay.
I would take a vote on that. That'd be my proposal.
Okay, I want to go to Councillor Buchanan next.
Thank you, Chair. And just to put on record our disappointment at the public inquiry being postponed this week. And maybe just before you take that proposal, if you could clarify the elements of it again, and then we can take the vote on it. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Buchanan. And with that then, members, I'm going to take it as proposed and seconded. A proposal that may have two or more than one element to it, but I'm happy to do that. That's my decision. Okay, so do I set up an online vote?
Recorded vote, please, Chair.
Recorded vote, surely, and as it would be. And I'll just ask Sinead to restate what the proposal is as we understand it.
Thank you, Chair. So as I understand it, Councillor Donnelly had proposed that we would write to the department, so that's the Department for Infrastructure, DFI, to, I suppose, highlight our concerns in relation to the process that has taken place ultimately, and ask that they, I suppose, engage with the process that's required of them, and to comply with the statutory process. And then there was also, the end of that was around asking in relation to the website in terms of updating in relation to gaps in terms of information. There was also then a proposal that we would write to the PAC in relation to virtual attendance at the inquiry, but then also the opportunity for it to be also live streamed. And I think the amended proposal that we're then looking at is that we would be asking the question of the PAC for them to explain why that has not been the current setup, for them to come back and provide an explanation on that.
Okay. Councillor Donnelly, just before we go to the vote, have you anything further to say on it?
No, Chair, I'm conscious we may have to do a bit of musical chairs for the actual vote itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I understand. Okay, So, we're going to start the vote now then, members. Okay, so it's up.
Yeah. Yeah, I voted. So, oh, is he coming back up again? Okay, grand.
Sinead and no, screen. So. So it's 9, yes, 9, 4. It's very good.
Okay, I can give the result now of the election, of the vote. And the vote in question was 9 for and 4 against. So the motion is then carried. Proposal is now carried, and I'll vacate the chair and facilitate the return of Councillor Stephen Donnelly.
Okay. Okay, can I thank Councillor McElduff for assisting in that, and can I thank all members for their participation in that conversation. I think it was an important chat that we needed to have. Okay, we've got one final item of any other business, which thankfully I think is less controversial than that. So we'll just finish up with that, Sinead.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So this is correspondence that has just come through to us today from Leitrim County Council. And it is correspondence requesting the council provide a letter of support for an application that the council are making to Peace Plus. So in the context of the investment strand 6.1 under the theme of strategic planning and engagement, clean air. So the council in writing to us have explained just the context for their application for funding. And they have also then attached just an appendix in terms of a proposal for a pilot project for clean air funding. So they've said in Leitrim County Council, they've agreed to help to get an application progressed. And that's the context for the letter of support. So there's obviously a time pressure in terms of the correspondence that they've issued to us, which is why we've brought it forward under AOB. So given the time pressure, we'd be seeking members' approval to issue a letter. And the letter that we would be proposing to issue really would be in relation to, I suppose, the context for us as Fermanagh District Council in terms of our climate change and sustainable development strategy action plan, the council's climate strategy, the I suppose objectives and priorities within that, and then just recognising us as a council in terms of our responsibilities as Fermanagh District Council, and then really going on to acknowledge the importance of addressing climate change and the context for that. And then we'd be concluding just to note that on behalf of Fermanagh District Council, we'd be acknowledging awareness of the project and its potential significance in addressing climate change, and confirming our willingness to engage with the council as they develop and progress their project. Given the time constraints with members' agreement then, that we would be proposing then that we would issue that letter ahead of it being ratified at council if members were content with that, just due to the time pressure.
Okay. Councillor Green.
I would be completely opposed to clean air in Leitrim, so no, I'm only only joking. I propose that the letter be sent. Yeah.
It's one of those things that doesn't look great written down. Okay, as a proposal, Councillor McElduff.
If it requires a seconder, I'm happy to second it. And I'm reminded of Seamus O'Rourke, who's a great playwright and writer from Leitrim. And he did a tourism advertisement for the county. And it was as simple as, come to Leitrim where you can breathe. That was Seamus O'Rourke's pitch for Leitrim. So no wonder they're keen on their fresh air.
Okay, good stuff. So we're agreed with that then? No. Okay, folks, that's the end of the meeting. Can I thank you all for your participation?